Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Boro Fan TV and the Monday Night Show on a Tuesday this week. I'm your host, James Hutchinson, and I'm joined by Joe Scott and Tony Guest. Great to see you again, boys.
Great to see you, James. Great to see you, Joe.
Great to see you, lads.
Yeah, great to have you back with us and great to have you all watching out there tonight on this week's show. So, 24 hours on, we're going to take a look back at last night's game against Blackburn Rovers, where unfortunately Boro's 8-game unbeaten run came to an end. How do you think that's going to affect us in terms of the rest of the season, or is it just a minor blip and the playoffs are still very much on your radar? Let us know, Boro fans. We're also going to preview what's another big game this weekend against another promotion contender when Coventry City come to the Riverside. It's another opportunity for Boro to put some distance between themselves and another team that's chasing that top 6 finish. And we're also going to have a look at other things, and that's what we're going to start off with first, other goings on around Boro and the EFL. And Tony, in the past week there's been lots going on with regards to Derby County and the clubs, the Boro's proceedings against them. What's your take on all of this, Tony? Are you there, Tony? It appears as though we might have lost connection with Tony there.
I'm getting I'm getting a bit of a lost signal here, James. So let's see if I can do something here. Can you hear me?
We can hear you and see you as well, Tony.
Can you hear me, James?
Yeah, I can hear you, Tony. Yeah.
Right, I'll keep going because you're breaking up. Yeah, the Derby County saga. Really, it's the club are getting Derby County are getting what they deserve. The management, the behind the scenes size, Mel Morris and his gang. Took the piss out of other clubs in the Championship. I remember when they made all the hoo-ha when it was Frank Lampard's Derby County about Bielsa spying on him and all this, and how hard done by the where. But now, when you read what it's meant to our club and what it's meant to Wickham, what basically it's cheating, James, and they've cheated every club in the Championship. Yeah, I do genuinely feel sorry for the fans, but I dare say now Derby County fans are hating Boro fans because of what Steve Gibson's doing, and I was doubted why Gibson.
Oh, Tony's dropped out there. Finally, we seem to have lost Tony. Hopefully he'll be back with us very soon. I think we get the gist, Joe, of what Tony's saying there, and he feels as though the punishment is, at the minute, or what's happening with Derby is quite fair in terms of, obviously, they have appeared to have broken the rules and it's gone against affecting not just the Boro but Wickham, but maybe the Championship in general. I think from a Boro point of view, it's not the fact that we finished 1 point behind them in the Championship that season. We sold players like Traore, Bamford, Gibson to make sure that we stayed within the financial fair play regulations. And you can't have a rule for 23 of the clubs in the Championship and it doesn't apply to one other, can you?
No, you definitely can. I mean, obviously, players, clubs will have to abide by the financial fair play rules for a reason. I mean, Derby fans have been questioning us over the players we've been buying recently. I mean, you can't rely, and you also can't rely, on the on what they've done over the previous years to account what we've been spending. But so, at the end of the day, I mean, we've touched about it before the show. I mean, it's not nice to see a club liquidate itself, but when you judge by the fans overall, particularly what I've seen on social media of what the Derby fans have been saying about Gibson when they were at Forest this past weekend, and looking at the saga that just deserves by getting beat 2-1 by their closest rivals. But that one we touched on, they've cheated, and obviously the fans put more fuel to the fire by hitting on Gibson. So I think it's just a bit downside. I mean, it's not the fans' fault, but I think it's down to one person in particular, and that is Mel Morris.
Yeah. Nice to have you back with us, Tony. Joe's just
I've dragged the Wi-Fi box up the passage.
Well, hopefully we won't have any more technical issues with you now, pal. But in all seriousness, do you have any sympathy? Like, I know you mentioned there about Derby's fans, but there's also people that are employed by the club. There's staff there that have been there for a number of years, and you can have some sympathy for them, but we can't be allowed to break the rules, can you? And nothing happen about it.
Not in professional sport, James. You know what I mean? If you know, we all watch the Olympics. We all watch different types of sport, and if we see any cheating going on, we're all up in arms. And for me, that's what Derby County have done. I don't think it's. Well, it must have had something to do with the managers, you know, and the playing staff. They knew what they were getting. They knew what. They all knew what the rules were. But like you say, it's the tea ladies, the cleaners, the guy who cleans the kits. It's all their jobs. Businesses around Derby County's ground, things like that. If it goes to the wall, it's going to impact a lot of people, a lot of good people. You know what I mean, James? And people like Mel Morris, he won't be the first. He's not the first, and he definitely won't be the last. And to come in, you know, it just reminds me of, I can't think of his name at the moment, the guy who screwed Leeds over and sent them spiralling out of control when David O'Leary was manager. They just get above the station, and they think they're bigger than the club. You just run the club into the ground, and like you said, it's sad for the fans, you know, but they deserve everything they get. But like you say, it's a famous old club, Derby County, and it'd be absolutely disastrous for me if a club like Derby went out of the Football League, James, went out of existence.
Yeah. Colin Fry, Joe, I was just going to mention, sorry, pal, Colin Fry's got in touch and he said they've already had a 21 points deduction. Now, I think some of that was for going into administration and some of that was for breaching FFP. Do you think that's enough on its own, or do you think further action needs to be taken? Because obviously the issues that Wickham and Middlesbrough are bringing against them are for something different rather than just what the 21 points are for, or do you think it should have been just drawn a line at the 21 points?
Probably drawn a line at 21 points, yeah. I think I've touched on it with you before the show about when I was watching on the EFL on Quest the other day, saying about two possible American buyers on about buying Derby, and one of them was like a £26 million bid, but it won't cover the cost of the stadiums or us and Wickham's compensation claims either, which I think was a little bit odd, to tell the truth. But yeah, I think I don't know any punishment for going further forward for Derby. I mean, must be the last thing on the fans' minds, to be honest.
Yeah. Did I hear it right today or yesterday, Joe, that the two clubs are willing to put things on the back burner till there's a buyer being sorted out, or was I hearing things? Because I think what I definitely did hear was that even though what's going on, Middlesbrough and Wickham are still going to pursue the claims no matter whether they've got a buyer in or, you know, the buyer in or not. They're still going to go through with this. But I thought I heard something late last night on Talk Sport saying that they were willing to put it on hold till a buyer, you know, till it found a buyer. But
I think so. I mean, like I said, I think there's two American potential buyers who want to buy the club. So I think it's just a matter of waiting on them to take over before we can sort out our own claims at the moment, I think.
Yeah. Well, I think what's true, lads, is this isn't going to go away in the next couple of weeks. And obviously we've got Derby coming to the Riverside on February the 12th. So things will certainly be hotting up in anticipation of that game. And like I say, there's a couple of weeks before that match. But on to other things, Tony. I mean,
can I just say I totally agree with what Andrew Will said there about it should have been more, because fair play to him, Rooney's working miracles, and if they keep going the way they're going to revive, you know what I mean? And I know it's still a long shot, but it's possible, you know what I mean, James? So
yeah, no, it's a fair point you make, Tony. He has, to all intents and purposes, they could be on 35 points this season, not far off a playoff place. He's done fantastically well when you think of the disruption and things that have been going on behind the scenes there. Yeah. So, in fairness, he's done a good job with the players he's had with him so far this season. But yeah, that story will rumble on, no doubt. But Tony, back to just Boro matters. We've got just under a week now left of the transfer window. Boro have completed 4 deals so far: Connolly, Boyd Munch, Balogun, and McGree. Do you see any more incomings in the next 6 days? And if so, where would you like to see Boro change the squad and make additions to?
I think I'm getting what you're saying, James. If we can strengthen anywhere, I'd love to see a new goalkeeper come in. I'm still not confident with Lumley. He has looked better since Wilder came in, but he still doesn't fill me or a lot of fans with confidence. So if we've got money to burn and Wilder's being allowed to spend it, I'd like us to bring it. Well, even if it's on someone on loan till the end of the season, just bring a half-decent keeper in, because the goalkeepers which we have at the moment, they're not good enough. So definitely a goalkeeper, James. If that's what you were asking me.
Well, interesting, yeah, that's what I was asking you. So you've done well there to decipher all that, pal. Christian Lamb's got in touch. Thanks for watching, Christian. He's just said we've been linked with the Portsmouth keeper on Twitter tonight, lads. So yeah, it seems as though a keeper is very much in the club's thought. And Ray Hoggy, hope you're well. Ray said there. Yeah. Agree with what you've said, Tony, about Lumley still has a clanger in his tank at any time. Go on, Joe.
Yeah, it's Gavin Bazunu, who's currently on loan at Portsmouth at the moment from Manchester City. He's current first choice goalkeeper for the Republic of Ireland, and that's according to more recent reports. So you never know. Maybe the goalkeeping press may be answered. So we could ask Man City to cut his loan at Portsmouth short, or obviously for us to bring him in.
Okay. Before we go on to last night's match, Joe, the match itself, over almost 3,000 Boro fans there last night at Ewood Park. And then last week we saw that Boro sold over 9,400 tickets in less than 24 hours for the game at Old Trafford against Man United in the FA Cup. The away following's always been good at the Boro, but it really seems to be taking off again at the moment, doesn't it?
Yeah, because I think that's what the effect that Chris Wilder's been doing. I mean, we've got the link back between the club and the fans. I mean, selling out obviously 1,000 for the Manchester United FA Cup tie is absolutely brilliant. And obviously following that up, obviously we saw the scenes at Blackpool in our last away game before Blackburn, and obviously we saw 3,000 for Blackburn. I mean, that's what Chris Wilder's done ever since he came to the club. I think he's brought back that connection between the club and the fans.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah. And I mean, Tony, it's great to see away followings, selling out away ends again, and everyone. There just generally seems to be a bit of a buzz about the club again at the minute, doesn't there?
Like you say, since Wilder's come in, I've been on the show since Wilder's come in. He's totally transformed the way we're playing, the thought process, and the way the fans are feeling. And there's a real feel-good factor around Middlesbrough Football Club again. And like you say, I'm glad I haven't been coming on, because there's been no negativity around the club, you know what I mean, James? And it's been absolutely fantastic what the man's done since he come in.
Yeah, I would agree. And Tony, we'll rewind to last night's game at Blackburn. Going to Chris Wilder, did it surprise you that he named an unchanged starting lineup for that game? And there was no changes with the subs bench either. It was totally unchanged from the Reading game. Did that surprise you?
The more I'm hearing, like you say, what I'm hearing about Wilder, and the more I'm learning about him since he's become Boro matches, he's not one for, making changes. You know what I mean? If he can play the same 11, he's going to play it, James. So no, not really. But I think, like you say, we're going to touch it after last night's display. I think we might see a couple of changes on Saturday.
Yeah, I think you're right there, Tony. And on the flip side, Joe, I mean, Blackburn, when it was announced their side and their starting lineup last night, on social media and stuff, there was a lot of negativity from Blackburn fans, and it actually ended up working quite well for them. So it just shows you can't judge what's happening before the game or you see a lineup, because one or two Blackburn fans were highly critical of Sam Gallagher before the game, and he ended up being the match winner, didn't he?
Yeah, I even said it on my match preview prior to the game. I think obviously with no Brent Brereton Diaz in the side, the one player that can cause a threat for us has been Sam Gallagher, because he showed that at the Riverside, obviously when before the start of the season. I think it was going to be a constant threat throughout the game. Both him and the lad on loan from Brighton, Reddy Cadra, caused all loads of problems all over the pitch. And obviously Mogger got them playing in the physical system. You can tell that from the start of the game. I mean, they like to play physical, and I mean, we were on the downfall pretty much as we had them like 4 yellow cards. 4 yellow cards within the first half hour. I mean, Taylor, Brooks, Tavernier and Connolly, all on the yellow cards within like half an hour. I mean, you could tell it was going to be an uphill task once those players were on the yellow card, because we had to tread cautiously throughout the rest of the game.
Yeah. And what do you make, Joe? Steve Davis has got in touch with us on the show tonight, and he's mentioned that he thought that Hutchy would have made a difference last night. Could you see maybe that would have been a possibility, especially with the size of the centre-halves that Spore and Connolly were up against? You think that might have been a game where Hutchy could have done a bit of damage last night?
I think he does. I mean, you can see Blackburn were playing in a back three formation, the same as us, but like Lenihan, Van Heck, and Walton, I believe it was, and you could easily pose a challenge for someone like Van Heck, for example. But in terms of height, it's going to be either him or Coburn, basically. I mean, Coburn only came on for the last couple of minutes or so last night, and you could have used him as a constant threat in the air. So, yeah. I mean, if Hutchy would have played, maybe it would have the same thing, but obviously now we'll never know.
Yeah. And Tony, I don't think there's any doubt about the fact that in the first 45 minutes, Blackburn were the better side. Why do you think there was such a difference between the two teams in the opening 45 last night?
I think Blackburn were the better side because Mowbray outthought Wilder last night. I feel first half, James, they totally strangled us. They let us have so much possession last night, but they had, for the home team, they had 11 men behind the ball every time McNair or Dykesteel or Dale had the ball, and they strangled us going forward. I seen a clip on the old Sky Sports, you know what I mean, and I think it was after about 25-30 minutes about, which players had the fewest touches, and the first 5 players were Blackburn players, and the 6th one was Isaiah Jones, and he'd only had 10 touches. Our main man who we wanted on the ball more than anyone. So, as bad as we were, I think Mowbray done an absolute excellent job on us, James, because to 75% possession, no shots on target, no shots on goal, compared to what Blackburn had, their possession, and like you say, he's gone from a possession-based. He's gone from being a possession-based team to a counter-attack team, and he done a good job. Was in the first half, we just didn't have no options for Dale or McNair to pass the ball onto, and then it was like you say, the big hike up front where Hutchy would have been perfect, but obviously Wilder hadn't set us up to play that way last night. And it's just a big shout out to Tony Mowbray for doing a decent job on us in the first half.
Yeah. And Tony, do you think that's something we're going to have to get used to? The fact that more and more teams are probably going to get wised up to Isaiah Jones and his threat now, and that teams are going to double team him and stuff like that. And we're going to have to find other ways to get at teams. It can't just all come through Jones, because it seemed again last night an awful lot came down our right hand side, not very much from the left.
I think that's where we're missing the likes of Bowler. Like maybe when Bowler comes back in and he's a bit fitter, he's a bit more mobile than Taylor. Maybe he's. But I was surprised he didn't switch wings last night, Jones. You know what I mean? Because, like you say, he was getting no joy at all down that right hand side in the first half. But the understanding he's got with Crooks, you can understand why he didn't go over that side, because they can produce a bit of magic between them in any minute of the game. So it was just frustrating. It was a really frustrating first half as a Boro fan to have so much of the ball, but so much of the ball just between our back three, James. And like you said, Mowbray done a decent job on us and stopped us getting our main attacking men on the ball.
Yeah. Colin Fried said, hopefully Jones has got a left-footed twin out there somewhere. That would be nice, Colin. And as poor as we were, Joe, in the first half, one of the main talking points was involving Isaiah Jones and the fact that we could well have had a penalty, and Alex Hughes has got in touch with us and he said we should definitely have had a pen. Do you agree with that train of thought?
When I looked at during the game, when I watched it, it did look a bit soft when I looked at it, but you can tell he was all over Isaiah Jones's back, and that would have been a tipping point, obviously, to give a penalty. But obviously, the referee saw it differently. Thought, Jones went down a bit too quickly, so that's why he haven't given it. But I thought, judging by the look of every angle, look at it, we could have had a penalty. So it's one of them,
There's one angle, Joe, where you can actually see him kicking the back of Jones's leg. You know what I mean? And yeah, it was a penalty. But like you say, you seem to get penalties in the Championship for soft decisions. You know what I mean? Where that for me, he was behind Jones, and he definitely kicked him in the leg. So there's a referee and a linesman to decide between them whether it's a pen or not. So are we right to argue with him, Joe?
Yeah.
I think, surprise, surprise, lads, everyone thinks it was a penalty. I mean, I'll be honest, at the time when it happened in real time, I didn't think it was a penalty, but then when you see it back later on and you see the slow motion replays, you think, oh, actually, yeah. He has made contact with him just as he's about to cross the ball. So, yeah, it seems to be one we lost out on. And in the second half, Tony, things did get better. We did improve. And from a Boro point of view, it was probably the tale of two headers that Matt Crooks didn't put away last night, which ended up costing us certainly from getting a point. There was the one that was cleared off the line when it was 0-0, and then the one at the very death where really should have got it on target. And it just shows how quickly fortunes can change from him putting two headers away in the last game to missing two arguably easier headers last night.
Like we said, we were just talking earlier about needing, the game was ideal for Hutchy in the first half, but like you say, in the second half, the two headers Crooks had, maybe it's the first one, which was cleared off the line, a bit more thought and a bit more direction, you know what I mean? But like you say, I was up, I thought it was in till the lad kicked it off the line. But the second one, from hero to villain, wasn't it? I think every Boro fan had their heads in their hands when that one went over, but that's football, isn't it? You know what I mean? He stood in front of the South Stand one weekend, taking all the plaudits off the fans, and the next game he's hanging his head in shame.
And Joe, the winning goal at Blackburn got Sam Gallagher. Good finish from Gallagher, but it was a poor goal from our point of view to concede, wasn't it?
Yeah, looking at it overall, and again, another one that I touched on before the show. I mean, at all games he played this season, I think Paddy McNair probably had one of his worst in the Boro shirt, to be truthful, because I think it was his missed kick, or it might have come off his shin pad. We probably never know about this. That actually led up to the goal that Sam Gallagher managed to slot in, and obviously I spoke about Sam Gallagher being a constant threat throughout the game, and he took his opportunity. It was a good finish, at the end of the day. He took the finish well, but obviously from a defensive side of things, it was a poor goal to concede. And we said as well, Sparrow obviously left it as well. I mean, we touched on that as well. Sparrow never really had a touch of the ball all game. And,
yeah, it was very quiet.
Yeah, it was both him and McNair's errors that obviously led to the goal, which obviously, again, was a good finish. But
Joe, as soon as we failed to clear that corner, when Lumley flapped at it and whoever headed it, and as a Boro fan, over the years, I was feeling if that ball comes back into the box here, we're going to concede.
Yeah.
Joe didn't get it far enough up the pitch. then obviously I don't know why McNair took such a swing at it when he's supposed to be an accomplished central defender, midfielder, whatever you want to call him, and then he just has this wild swing at it. I don't even think it came off his shin pad. And as soon as it fell to the lad and he spun round on it.
Yeah, probably done good.
As a Boro fan, I knew it was going to end badly as soon as we didn't defend that corner properly.
Talking of Sporra, you mentioned there, Joe. Tony, bring you back in here. What do you make of the situation at the top end of the pitch? There's been a few viewers making comments tonight, and obviously for the second game running, he started with Sporra and Connolly. You've got Watmore, Balogun, potentially Coburn. You can add to the mix as well. Hutchy has been mentioned tonight. What do you make of the situation at the top end of the pitch? Is that an area which you would be looking at changing, or would you persist with Sporra and Connolly?
What I've seen of Connolly, he's not doing it for me yet, whether he's taking time settling in, but he seems to be getting more game times than the other signings that we've made. But I think he's got to make a change this weekend. Like you say, I've been one of Tav's biggest fans. I still am. But I don't know what the situation is with Piero. Why he's not getting a look in. Maybe there's a change there. But definitely, I'd love to see Balogun and Watmore leading the line on Saturday. You know what I mean? I think he's been faithful to Sporra since he come Wilder. He got a few, he started getting on the score sheet a few times, but he was totally out-muscled last night. So I'd like to see Balogun given a chance. He's 21, he's on loan, he's got a point to prove. Let him loose. Let's see what he's like from the start. You know what I mean? I understand he's had COVID, and maybe that's why he's been holding him back. They reckon he's been a bit ill. So yeah, it'd be nice to see Balogun and Watmore up front. For me, no matter who we sign up front, we've got to start Watmore every game. For me, just for the commitment and the effort that the lad puts in every week.
Yeah, it's been more of an impact player for us recently, hasn't it, Tony?
Yeah, well, I'd start with him. I think he's been a fantastic signing, Watmore.
Yeah, Daniel Charlton's in agreement with you there, Tony. He's saying Balogun and Watmore for him on Saturday. Joe, just Davy B's made a point here, and I like to bring you in on this. He's just said the defence last night will do us good and keep the team focused. Blackburn may have won the battle last night, but it's all about where you end up in May. Do you think, though, that result last night, I mean, there was one or two whispers going around that people were starting to talk about the top two finish. Do you think that's put that to bed now, and it's more a case of let's just focus on trying to get in the top six and staying in there and establishing ourselves in the top six and just forget about top two, put all that to bed now?
Yeah, I mean, I think, to be honest, I think Fulham will definitely be hard to catch now. And the second spot will probably be reserved by, we touched about it before on the show. I mean, Blackburn have come to the form at the right time, and there's another one will come to the form at the right time. And obviously, we see the likes of Bournemouth from West Brom have been slipping up recently. And obviously, we're still around in the playoff picture at the minute, but you've got to look at the teams in and around below us and above us as well, like Huddersfield, for example, Stoke, Forest, those teams, obviously, and QPR, obviously. It was the other team I was going to mention about nicking the last sort of mark. I mean, you've got to look around the playoffs, and obviously the result last night obviously indicated that I think that we're not ready to get into the automatic. So it's just a matter of concentrating on us finishing in the playoff places. I mean, it's not ideally what we would have preferred, but if we've got to do it the hard way, we've got to do it the hard way.
And Tony, I mean, people sometimes might forget. I think that's only 10, 11 games that Chris Wilder's been in charge. So, I mean, it's been a dramatic transformation anyway. So to be even talking about playoffs being a real possibility, I mean, that's a heck of a step up from where we were in November when he took over. But were you surprised? I don't know if you've heard his reactions after the game last night when he spoke about the players' attitude and application. Were you surprised that he came out and he was so forthright as he was?
Yeah, because I didn't think he was that type of bloke, and like you say, he must have went through them like a dose of salts in that changing room at half time and that full time last night. So fair play to him. If he gets a tune out of him on Saturday, long may it continue. But like you say, since I was last on here, talking about the situation under Warnock and where we weren't going, and getting criticised for saying that Warnock needs to go because there was still a massive Warnock loving going on in amongst the Boro fans. And since he's gone, it's totally transformed the club, it's transformed the fans. And for us three and for, you know, every Boro fan to be thinking about top 6, if we'd have won last night, we'd have been 4 points off top 2. And like you say, forget about Fulham, they're you know, they're just going to run away with it now. They're scoring goals for fun, but there's still, and I can't believe I'm saying it myself, there's still another spot up for grabs because nobody's tearing up trees, James, and we're all going to be playing each other. And like Wilder's just been saying about consistency and attitude, if he can get that right, there's 19 games left, so anything's possible. Anything's possible this season in that league because there's so many teams having a good run. Then you've got your West Broms, your Bournemouths, who you thought were moving away and have come back into the pack. So it's like you say, anything's possible. The standard isn't as good as it has been in the last few seasons in the Championship, but it's really interesting at the top of the table.
Yeah, good points made there, Tony. Well, this weekend sees the Boro face up to another top 6 contender when Coventry City visit the Riverside. And it's been a dramatic change there, Tony, hasn't it, at Coventry in their fortunes over the last 12 months. I mean, this time last year they were battling against relegation. What do you put the change down to, Tony?
All I can think is consistency, James. They've stuck with the same manager for a few seasons. He's been there a while, and last night, like you say, Blackburn have stuck with Mowbray, who struggled last season, and I think the season before they've been down into the old third division. You know what I mean? And it's just madness how this Championship works. But I'm a great believer in the consistency of the manager, and obviously his playing staff. He's been there that long. They've bought into how he wants to play, and for both Blackburn and Coventry this season, it's been a success for them, James.
Yeah. And Joe, I don't think you can underestimate they've moved back to, it's now called the CBS Arena now at Coventry. I think that's probably played a part in them doing well this year, going back to Coventry and having the fans back in them there. But the beat was 2-0 there in September. Where do you see the threats coming from in terms of Coventry on Saturday? Where do you think they have to watch out for?
There's going to be there's a couple of players in particular that I have my eye on in terms of Coventry. Victor Gorkarev is obviously one of them. I mean, he's gone through a bit of a patch recently where he has been not been striking in front of goal recently, but he's still a constant threat at this level, and he can strike at this level. We've got Matt Godwin to partner alongside him as well, who can also cause a threat, and then also they love to play right in the same system as us, like a 3 at the back and a wing back system as well. So, I mean, Coventry, like you said, since they went back to the Coventry Building Society Arena, they looked a different team compared to where they were when they had those couple of seasons over at St Andrews. So they look a different team. I mean, they're not far off the playoff picture themselves. So it hasn't been for a tough test, but obviously we'll be looking to bounce back. Obviously after what happened last night.
Yeah, I think Godwin might be out of the week because I think he had his appendix removed last week. So
yeah.
I think Godwin's out on Saturday, but like you said, they've still got plenty of players that can cause a bit of damage. Reece Ward's got in touch with us, Tony, hoping well recently. He said 2 defeats in 11 games since Wilder came in, can't complain. Just need a bit of consistency, that word again, Tony. But if I'm honest, I don't think we're strong enough for the Premier League just yet. And fair points made by Reece, but at the end of the day, if you get to the playoffs, you take what comes from that, don't you? And if you make the playoffs and if you happen to get lucky and win the playoffs and get the Premier League, well, you do all that once you go up, don't you?
Definitely, I'd like to say, I don't want us to become a Norwich. I don't want us up and down. If we go up, I want us to stay up, but that's the way it is now. Teams from the Championship, I dare say, every squad, apart from Fulham out the top 10, aren't good enough to go into the Premier League. We're not the only club who's going to go up there and think, what do we do now? Apart from Fulham, I think every other team, every other squad are going to struggle. So let's just enjoy it. There's still a lot of games to play. It could go the other way, like two defeats in 11. Let's hope Wilder can keep going. Basically it's a free hit for him. You know what I mean? He's came in. Maybe he's not to get us anywhere near where we are at the moment. He's came in with half a season, near enough half a season to play to set his stall out for next season. But he's got us in and around the top 6. Another 3 or 4 wins on the bounce, and you're touching the top 2 again because everyone's taking points off everyone. So anything's possible. Yeah, I totally agree. We're not good enough to go up, but if we go up, I dare say Gibson will, be a bit more generous than he was with Karanka. I know Karanka brought all his Spanish mates in and a lot of loanies, but hopefully Gibson's a bit more experienced again, and we can do something to improve the squad to make us stay up and not be like, it's pointless. It must be a nightmare being a Norwich fan. You don't know what sticker to put on your shirt at the end of the season, whether to stick an EFL one on or a Premier League one. You know what I mean? So
I'd settle for that at the minute, mate. I would settle for that.
Would you? To your every, I dare say it's exciting, you know what I mean? But that'd do my panning getting battered every week like they do.
Well, Ian Harris has got in touch, and not that we condone betting, but he said before last night you could get 5 to 4 on Boro, making a top 6 finish this season. Fill your boots, lads. So he's obviously still confident despite last night's results.
I think we've got the manager. I think we've got the manager now to push us to that top 6, James. And he's a type of bloke who's not going to let us sit back on our haunches. He's totally changed the thought process of our players. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I think we can pretty much finish in the top 6, and that's just not talking as a mad Boro fan who thinks we should always be in the top 6. I really believe it now that we've got Wilder in charge, that it is possible.
And Joe, with regards to Saturday, do you think Chris Wilder, I know Tony touched on it earlier in the show, do you think Chris Wilder will make changes after last night's game at Blackburn?
I mean, obviously you've got to. I mean, obviously we unchanged the team for the game. Obviously at Reading, when we took the Blackburn, and obviously Blackburn obviously fought that plan out, and obviously they got beat. So I won't be surprised if changes were made. I mean, obviously we'd like to see Balogun get his start, like we touched on earlier. Possibly either him or Sporran, or him and Watmore up front will probably make a nice change, and obviously see what we go in terms of the midfield situation. Obviously, we know McGree's with the Australian national team at the moment, so if there were the case to drop Tab, I'd love to see either Piero or probably someone else get a chance in that position. But obviously we'll have to wait what team by 2 o'clock on Saturday, what team that Wilder picks.
Yeah. What do you think? Do you think Wilder doesn't fancy Piero, or do you think it's just fitness why he's not getting the run out?
I think it's a bit of something to do with his fitness, in my opinion. I think Wilder said he's definitely in his plans, but I think it's probably due to down fitness. I mean, he still had that ankle problem for the last few weeks or so, but I think
right.
I think it's just a case of him getting 100% fit. But obviously, Wilder hasn't seen the fact that he's 100% fit yet. But he's definitely said that Piero is still part of his plans.
I think it's interesting that Luke Boyes mentioned there about why is Tav getting a start, and we've had it week after week, almost been a weekly event on this show throughout the season, discussions around Tav. I think Chris Wilder pretty much nailed his colours to the mast after the Reading game, where he said he had some of the crowd being a bit critical towards Tav, and he said, I know a good player when I see one, and he is a good player. And again, he copped a bit of flack last night after the performance, and people, I think quite rightly, I think Tav did have a poor game last night, but I don't think Wilder's going to bin him off. I could be wrong there, Tony, but I'd be surprised if Tav wasn't in the team on Saturday, or do you disagree? Do you think Tav will start, will be on the bench and be replaced possibly by Piero or maybe Balogun?
I still think he'll start Tav, but I'd definitely take him off the dead ball situation now. You know what I mean? Because he is piss poor. You know, some of his deliveries are poor. I dare say you only need one good one, like, you know what I mean, like you did against was it Redden? You only need the one good one. You only need one a game, James. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, but everyone was poor last night. Tav's inventive. Tav likes to try a pass which other players don't want to play, and when it doesn't come off, it does look bad. Yeah, there's times when he should keep hold of the ball. Then there's times when he's got hold of the ball, he keeps hold of it too long. But he's only going to get better with age. So if the manager's saying he's a good player, you've got to believe what the manager's saying. So he sees it different to us fans. So I just believe in what the manager's saying at the moment. So if he believes he's a good player, pick him.
Well, before we finish off the show, I've got a couple of questions for both you lads. I'm sure the viewers will chip in a few as well. We're less than a week away from the FA Cup encounter. Well, your week off at the weekend from the game with Man United at Old Trafford. But which is the bigger game for you, the Coventry game on Saturday or the Man United Cup game? Joe, you can have that one first.
As much as I love to say the latter, I have to say the former. So I have to say the Coventry game, because obviously we need to concentrate on the league, basically, even though the game against Man United is huge. But as a Boro fan, I mean, most Boro fans in general, you want to focus more on the league. Obviously, we've got a good way forward to take down the Man United, but I'd rather just get the top six finish done with on the league. So I'd definitely say Coventry will be the biggest game.
Same for you, Tom.
I'd like to say, like you say, I love the FA Cup, but for once, I'd swap anything for 3 points on Saturday. So that's the main thing now, to stay in and amongst that top six. Yeah, Man United, big glamour match. 10,000 Boro fans going to Old Trafford. Elon over tickets. You know, why has he got tickets? Just like, to me, it sounded like it's the first time it's ever happened to Middlesbrough Football Club, James, that we've had these problems with tickets before, but go back to the Zenith Data Cup, everyone who got a ticket for that wasn't a Boro fan, you know. You know what I mean? You only go because you're a Glory supporter, and, you know, it was I quite enjoyed seeing all the carry on over who's got tickets and who hasn't got tickets, because it just shows the club are moving in the right direction at the end of the day, James, doesn't it? So for everyone who's got a ticket, whether you've never been to a Boro game or you're going to watch Ronaldo, or if you've got a Boro shirt on, I'm not bothered. Just go enjoy it. But I'd still rather us have 3 points on Saturday and then stuff Man United and Ronaldo next Friday just for the weekend.
Yeah. You want your cake and eat it, mate. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And I want Boris Johnson's birthday cake and all that.
Yeah, that's it, yeah. More than 30 there, no doubt.
Yeah.
Anyway, will we get the 3 points, boys? That's the question on Saturday. Joe, will we turn Sky Blues over?
Yeah, I love to say so. I think we need to bounce back Blackburn defeat. So going up against the Coventry side, who obviously been struggling for goals recently, but so I'm going to go with the 2-0 Boro win.
2-0 Boro. Go on, Tony.
Well, like you say, my memories of Coventry games at the Riverside, Ayson Park, we always seem to do well against Coventry, and I'll go for a 3-1 win on Saturday.
3-1, confident lads, yeah. So that's just a bit, we're going to put it behind us on Saturday, yeah?
Yeah, definitely.
Well,
get Monday night out well, sister.
Yeah. And that's all about it.
Luke, away, mate. Where's your positivity, mate? 1-1, are we?
Stephen Jarrett's gone 4-0. That is optimistic. I think Luke
He's a good
Stefan, but,
yeah.
And Daniel Charlton's got a 2-1. Also gone. So, yeah, there we go, boys. Just before we leave the show, there's been a few rumours kicking around today about us being linked with Jeff Hendricks at Newcastle. What do you make of that one, Tony?
I honestly can't see why we're going in for a player like that. Whether it's to give Johnny Howson's legs a rest, I don't know. But I dare say it wouldn't be a bad sign, and he's not someone who will be at the top of my list, but I don't think it'd be a bad sign. It's a better quality of signing than what we've been used to anyway, James. So, if he wants to come, he'll have to get his hair cut. Like, if he's not going to, he's not going to run about in a Boro shirt looking like a long-haired yeti.
Yeah, like I said, we touched on beforehand, James. Johnny Howson's contract runs out at the end of the season, so, and plus he's one of our high earners, so I won't be surprised, in my opinion, if once Johnny Howson's contract runs out, I won't be surprised if he leaves. So bringing in someone probably like Hendrick will probably be suit stability, unless he puts, say, like Crooks, for example, in more of a defensive man position, which I probably doubt. I won't be surprised if Hendrick swaps over him, or go over more forward.
He's one of them who's been there and done it, Joe, isn't he? You know what I mean? So he's only going to bring positivity to the squad.
Yeah. Do you think this last thing we'll do on this, lads, on the transfer chat? Colin Fried said he would rather, in his opinion, go for Joe Lundstrom at Rangers, because he obviously was working under Chris Wilder at Sheffield United and he knows the Championship. And as you said, Tony, obviously Hendrick has been promoted from the Championship with Burnley before, but you're going back quite a few years now, 6 years. But Lundstrom's done it more recently and worked under Wilder. That might be maybe nearer the mark, do you think?
Well, like you say, I remember him at Sheffield United. I don't know what his situation is at Rangers. You might know a bit more, James, whether he's playing regular or not. So, would it be easy to entice him away from Rangers, or does he get regular football there? I dare say if he's getting regular football for him, he's not going to come. He's not going to come south.
Yeah, he's been in and out the side a lot, Tony, and I don't think the Rangers fans are quite warm to him, to be honest.
Right.
I think he could possibly be open to a move back down south, but as we say, all will be revealed. The transfer window closes next Monday night, so on next week's show we might have a better idea of who's coming in. But unfortunately, that's all we've got time for on this week's show, everybody. We'll be back in our usual slot on a Monday next week to look back on the game against Coventry, which the lads have discussed with us tonight, and preview the game against Man United on the Friday in the FA Cup. My thanks go to Tony and Joe for joining me. Hope you've enjoyed it again, boys.
Yeah, it's great to be back.
Yeah, it's been smashing to see you again, lads. Everyone out there, if you can, please like and subscribe to Boro Fan TV and also check out our Twitter page. However, until next Monday, it's a good night from us all here at Boro Fan TV. See you next week, and up the Boro.
Up the Boro.
Up the Boro.